is an important stakeholder in this exercise. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Honorable Rex Secretary. Our next featured speaker is a St. Martiner who at a very young age has achieved what many men and women have taken lifetime to achieve. Mr. Francio Guadeloupe has just completed his PhD in cultural anthropology, and we must congratulate him with that and welcome him back home. Dr. Francio Guadeloupe has traveled extensively throughout the world. He's just back from South Africa, given a number of seminars and lectures, and he's no stranger to this type of setting. And in St. Martin, we always like to compliment someone who has achieved much, someone of the region who has also achieved a lot. So I would like to welcome Dr. Francio Guadeloupe, who will address us this evening. Mr. Guadeloupe.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out, and I'd like to thank the government officials and Mr. Neville York for having me here, and the persons of UNESCO. Good evening. Now, my lecture will be a short one. It's entitled "A People Born of Three Mothers: St. Martin Culture, Then, Now, and in the Future." Okay, here it goes. The three mothers that gave birth to the contemporary people of St. Martin are the plantation system, tourism, and the reinstatement of Christianity as a religio as opposed to a religion. I'll explain that later. In this lecture, I will expand on these three sources and thereafter present 4 key areas that should be given attention in drafting up and implementing a cultural policy on this island. I start with the plantation system. It is often said by Caribbeanists that the plantation is one of the bellies of the world. With the advent of the plantation system, St. Martin and the rest of the Caribbean became what they are today, the oldest outpost of European imperialism. The plantation system was accompanied by the enslavement of millions of Africans and to a lesser extent the indentureship of people of Asia and Europe. On the island of St. Martin, this was exclusively people of African descent. As the whips came down on their black backs, our ancestors produced the sugar and salt that sweetened and spiced the diet of Europeans and the wealthy few of this world. In a word, the plantation system was horrific, a long nightmare from which St. Martiners and other Caribbean people are still awakening. Racism and class exploitation are reminders of what man can do to man when consumed by the false ideologies that the sum of one's wealth and the color of one's skin determine who one is and how one should treat the other. But within the grinding teeth of that monstrosity, the plantation system, West Indians were born. And West Indians are the first modern people of the world, I would say. West Indians have been modern long before Europeans and other old world peoples such as Africans have been modern or dreamed about becoming modern. If modernity is characterized by a complete break with the past ways of life, then the offspring of those who descended from those who inhabited the Caribbean after the virtual extermination of the Amerindians are thoroughly modern people. They learned that culture is about making and remaking. Culture does not make a people for a modern person, but rather the other way around. A people make culture. They, the ancestors of all modern people, so your ancestors and my ancestors, the black, brown, and white ones, would not be bewildered by the anthropological truth that states that the past is the present's memory and the future is the present's hope. They understand immediately that life is always in the present, and therefore we are always making culture in the here and now. though because as human beings we anticipate, attend, and memorize, the present always contains traces of our individual and collective memories and our individual and collective hopes. Now, the worst mistake one can make, I believe, is to believe that the plantation system only applies to the offspring of the slaves, the indentured laborers, the Seraphic Jews, and the wealthy Europeans that people this region of the world. Or that every group, to the blacks, the whites, the browns, etc., are locked up in their own little culture, bearing some immutable, mythical seed. Or that the plantation system belongs to the past. This would be to adhere to linear time and racism. No matter the color of their skin, no matter their ethnicity, everyone born or living on St. Maarten and the rest of the Caribbean today acknowledges the traces of Africa that Caribbean people enact when they act. Or as Stuart Hall, a very known Jamaican theorist in Europe, phrased the matter, and I quote, "Everyone in the Caribbean of whatever ethnic background must sooner or later come to terms with his African presence. Black, brown, mulatto, white, all must look the présence africaine in the face and speak its name." Now the children of the Indian and Pakistani newcomers on this island speak its name when they talk St. Maarten English. And the sons and daughters of North American and Chinese newcomers acknowledge the présence africaine when they sing along to Elephant Man's latest tune or jam to Crossfire's hit. But the so-called African traces, they too are not pure, for they are entangled with the présence European, Asian, and American. When Rastafari, for instance, speak about ganja, they are speaking the name of the Asian trace, for it is the Asian indentured laborers that brought this plant to the Caribbean. And Elephant Man's tunes are heavily influenced by the compositions of North American artists, hip-hop artists, but also to a lesser extent, country and Western artists. In short, we are a people thoroughly creolized, thoroughly mixed up in a continuous process of mixing, even as racism and class exploitation remain prevalent in the Caribbean and on St. Maarten. Now, the second source of our culture is actually tourism. With tourism, St. Maarten moved from being a country, I would say, behind God's face, into one of the most developed and internationally oriented countries in the Caribbean and the wider world. There's nothing one finds or experiences in Western Europe or the US that one cannot encounter and experience on St. Maarten. From the most advanced modern conveniences and lifestyles to the vices and the crime sprees that come with a highly capitalist economy. While many countries are still in anxiety about the latest onslaught of globalization, St. Maarten, I would say, is already a global island. And the characteristic of a global island is that people have learned to live with differences of religious orientation and ethnic expression. St. Martiners are not lost for words, for their island is a miniature United Nations. And the United Nations, I would say, living here for a year, that works, where people have found a way to get along despite the tensions that may arise here and there. The implication of the super diversity of St. Maarten is that St. Martiners can host tourists and other visitors from abroad and make them feel at home. St. Martiners know about the world, for they are a reflection of the entire world. They can talk with authority about Bush's reaction to the New Orleans hurricane, the perils of Jacques Chirac and Jan Peter Balkenende after the resounding no vote during the EU referenda, the World Cricket Finals, and the continuing India-Pakistan conflict. There are few places in the world where the general population is that well informed and sophisticated as St. Martiners are. I've just been to South Africa and Shanghai, and I see that St. Maarten is a very sophisticated place compared to those countries. Now I know, and I know this, that some locals feel that they've gotten a bad deal due to the globalization of this island. I know that they feel that they've been overrun by the newcomers. I understand, but I don't agree. And I'll tell you why I don't agree. To me, local St. Martiners have advanced in an unprecedented degree. Those who have studied at the University of Amsterdam, where I work, have walked the halls where the regents of the Dutch East India Company used to convene to discuss how they would further exploit their colonies. This is a mighty achievement, one that their ancestors who toiled the lands and who were prohibited from gaining an education would be proud of.